After Honasan, before kasi.
Okay.
Yan, papalo.
The Necrological Services in honor of the late Senator Juan M. Flavier is hereby declared open.
Please rise for the Lord's Prayer to be sung by the Senate Choir. After the doxology, please remain standing for the singing of the Philippine National Anthem. The Honorable Senator Miriam Defensor Santiago will now deliver her eulogy.
Juan Martin Flavier was my best friend in the Senate, and possibly the most honest senator I ever knew. He was born in Tondo, Manila, but grew up in Baguio. He was a bright student and graduated valedictorian in both grade school and high school. He graduated Bachelor of Science from the University of the Philippines and placed at the top of his class, thus qualifying him as a member of the Phi Kappa Phi International Honor Society. In addition, he was admitted as a member of the Alpha Epsilon Delta International Honor Society for the Advancement of Research. Subsequently, he graduated Doctor of Medicine, also at the University of the Philippines. Naturally, he trained at UP Philippine General Hospital, where he was named Outstanding Intern. Some 9 years later, he earned a degree, Master's in Public Health, at the Johns Hopkins University in the United States. Senator Juan Flavier served as Doctor to the Barrios in Nueva Ecija and Cavite. He was recognized and rewarded with his appointment as President of the Philippine Rural Reconstruction Movement, and a year later as President of the International Institute of Rural Reconstruction. It did not come as a surprise that the Philippine JCs gave him the award for TOYM, or 10 Outstanding Young Men. The UP Alumni Association followed suit by naming him as Most Distinguished Alumnus. In a much applauded move, in 1992 he was appointed Health Secretary. Secretary Flavier launched public health programs that captivated the public with his catchy, media-savvy slogans. His American alma mater recognized his achievements as a Filipino public servant by awarding him a gold medal for marked distinction in public health. On the strength of his rock star status, he won as senator in the 1995 elections. In all, he served 2 terms. He endeared himself to all committee chairs when they needed another senator to form the quorum of 2 senators for a public hearing. No matter what the committee or subject was, the genial Senator Flavier made himself available every single day of the week for a quorum as if it was his duty. Johnny and I were both neophyte senators in the same year. Hardly had the dust settled from the campaign when I rose in a privileged speech to denounce pork barrel kickbacks, which in the simpler time consisted of 10% of the public funds involved. I heatedly said that right after I was proclaimed senator, a series of contractors asked for appointments. I had just been named laureate of the Magsaysay Award for Government Service with a citation, quote, for bold and moral leadership in cleaning up a graft-ridden government agency, unquote. Despite my highly publicized Asian Award for Honesty, the individual contractors minced no words. Their offers were the same. If I turned over my pork barrel funds, they will build the public works project, take care of the incidental bribes that were part of the process, and guarantee that I would receive a 10% kickback. I would not need to sign anything. As some of them said, malinis ang kikitain. I was so insulted and outraged that I rushed to the Senate to denounce the system, expecting that my colleagues would leap to their feet and confirm my narrative. But, foolish me, after my speech, there was no interpellation and no comment from anybody. Nobody spoke, except for one man, Senator Juan Flavier. With an offended expression, he rose to affirm my accusation of corruption in the Senate. If Senator Flavier did not have the courage and the purity of heart to support my story of corruption, I would have made no impact. Because of Senator Flavier's comment, the media picked up the story. When I was sometimes tired or bored or downhearted, I would saunter to Johnny's desk right about there and engage him in a chat, confident that I was sharing a companionable time with an honest man, a good man, a great man. In conclusion, since Juan Martin Flavier was a scholarly man who sought knowledge from universities abroad, allow me to quote from the poem entitled Dominus Illuminatio Mea, the Oxford motto, which means, God be my light. In the hour of death after this life's swim, when the heart beats low and the eyes grow dim, and pain has exhausted every limb, the lover of the Lord shall trust in him. Amen.
The Honorable Senator Sergio R. Osmena III will now deliver his eulogy.
Mr. Senate President, Mrs. Susan Flavier, members of the Flavier family, current and former members of the Philippine Senate, distinguished guests, our dear associates in the Senate establishment, friends. At the risk of being irreverent, I must opine that Senator Johnny Flavier was probably shooed away from the gates of heaven. Sabi po ni St. Peter, "Hoy, bawal ang bata dito." Those were the opening lines of Johnny's campaign speech when we first ran for the Senate in 1995. And those words, always without exception, brought the House down. He would continue with his jokes, many of them one-liners, and have the audiences rolling in stitches during his 7-minute spiel. Johnny was far and away the crowd favorite. I recall when former President Fidel Ramos commissioned the first senatorial survey in 1994. Johnny was the runaway leader, garnering 65% of the vote. The second placer came in at 35%. His batchmates included Senate President Fernand, Senate President Drilon, June Magsaysay, Senator Raul Rocco, Senator Tatad, Senator Gloria Arroyo, Senator Enrile, and me. But we hanged on to his coattails the entire campaign. After having listened with fascination to Johnny dozens of times, I asked him, "Johnny, why are you so good at doing this?" And he explained, "I've been going to the barrios for 40 years. I have learned that to keep their attention, you have to keep them alive and attentive through jokes. Listen to my speech. I will tell 6 jokes in a row, and then with one sentence I would talk about my medical program, then go back to telling jokes. I vividly recall that there was this one chubby, middle-aged woman in one of our town rallies in Cebu. She had gently elbowed her way to the front of the crowd, and in 2 minutes she had tears rolling down her cheeks in laughter. One night before a very small rally of about 200 people, I asked Johnny if I could deliver his speech, which I had already memorized. He graciously agreed, and I shamefully failed to elicit the same type of laughter. Johnny was a great member of this institution. He humbly became the quorum maker, so-called, as Senator Miriam earlier explained, because we need at least 2 senators to compose a quorum, and when invariably 4 or 5 committee hearings are being conducted at the same time, 1 or 2 hearings may not begin for lack of a quorum, and that's when a call would be made to Johnny's staff. Senator Flavier, of course, was our go-to guy on the floor of the Senate when proposed bills concerning health, environment, minorities, education would be debated on. His counsel would always be wise, learned, far-reaching. And his ways were simple. He had no airs. He was always for the common man. And he exuded and laid down the proper values and the principles by which all men must live. The great Senator Jose W. Diokno once wrote, "If life means having a good time, money, fame, power, security, then you don't need principles. All you need are techniques. On the other hand, if happiness counts more than a good time, respect more than fame, right more than power, and peace of soul more than security, if death does not end life but transforms it, then you must be true to yourself and to God." Johnny Flavier transformed many lives. He certainly was a big inspiration to me and to so many millions of Filipinos. So I thank you, Johnny, for being what you are and what you were. I am positive, as I shall always pray, that the paradise you are in now will not prohibit children. But here on earth, you will always be lovingly remembered as a funny, genial, gentle giant, the giant in the Senate, the giant of the barrios, the giant among Filipinos.
The Honorable Senator Lauren Legarda will now deliver her eulogy.
Mr. Senate President and my colleagues, Tita Susan and the Flavier family, friends, how do you eulogize a man who was bigger than life, who epitomized what public service really means, who stood for the words integrity and work ethic? When I was a neophyte senator in 1998, Johnny Flavier was my seatmate. I chose him because he was L, I was L, he was F, and we weren't supposed to be beside each other. And he chose me. He was witty, he was happy, he was kind, he had a wonderful sense of humor. One time, a certain indigenous group visited the Senate and came in their usual garb, bahag, the G-strings. Manong Johnny went up to them and had his photo taken and said he was also an IP. When he went back to his seat beside me, I think Mon, one of his staff, said that he should wear the same garments at the session hall. But he immediately shunned the idea and he said, "Wag." Alam to ni Attorney Kimbo, baka madistract si Loren sa puti ng aking puwet. That was vintage Johnny Flavier. That was just one of the many light-hearted moments we shared in 6 years. But when he was a mentor to me, the conversations were earnest and became more serious. Manong Johnny guided me when I was very new to the Senate. He taught me about parliamentary procedure. He patiently coached me on what went on in plenary during the first few months of my first term in 1998. I sought his advice on what to do about my first privileged speech, and he told me that I should talk about something distinct, something different. Sabi niya, yung hindi nila naintindihan at hindi nila alam. And so I remember I spoke about the delineation of our forests, and it was one of the first bills I filed in 98. It's still pending in the Senate today. Manong Johnny's own maiden speech was about tuberculosis. I could also count on him whenever I needed quorum for committee hearings. He was, as Miriam and Serge had said, Mr. Quorum. He would be more than happy to join me in the hearings I chaired. When I was not feeling well, and it was quite often at a time, I would consult him. He was my doctor confidant. As a mother of 2 young sons then, 8 years old and 5 years old, he would often see me, talk to my sons very often on the phone, because I would try to micromanage being a mom and run the household and being a senator, and he would affectionately ask, "Oh, sino na naman yan? Si Lance o si Lian?" Our friendship would extend to his family, Tita Susan, to whom he was so devoted, to his children. I hope I don't miss anyone because I just remember little John because I enjoyed going to his restaurant in Baguio. I also know Joy because she baked, I hope you still do, delicious siopaws. And of course, Dr. John, James, I hope I didn't miss, apat lang ba? Juanito, sorry, because I just remember the two. He doted on his grandchildren, and he never accepted speaking engagements after session or out-of-town trips, which I did often, because he always preferred to go straight home to Tita Susan, to his family, after a long, hard day's work. Siya po ang politiko na hindi kailangan umikot ng Pilipinas para manalo na top-notcher. I recall I would often share my chocolates or delicacies with him, and he would gladly share them with me, much to the consternation of Mon and Attorney Kimbo. I did not know he was a diabetic. Manong Johnny was a helpful, kind, selfless, dependable, confidant, friend, person. He was also very fiercely protective of me. When criticisms were hurled against me, he would advise me, "Inggit lang yon, ibalato mo na lang sa kanila yon." I would use the term now, ibalato na lang sa kanila. My first official trip was courtesy of him. He was a good friend of then New Zealand Ambassador Terry Baker, and thanks to him, not only did I get invited as one of the panelists at the time of the APEC Women Leaders meeting, but also became an official guest of the New Zealand government. That was in 1999. He was also my partner in legislation, just many of our colleagues. We worked together for the passage of many health-related laws. Also the bills which I filed, like the Tobacco Regulation Act, the Philippine National Ear Institute Act, and the Newborn Screening Act. We had a great synergistic working relationship. He was pro temp, and I was majority leader when Frank was Senate President. We were the first ones in and the last ones out in the Senate, and our rooms were beside each other, where we'd often share our lunch as well. Though gifted with a sense of humor, Manong Johnny was never a pushover. He was very firm in his beliefs, as seen in his advocacies that oftentimes went against established institutions. Manong Johnny had character. Manong Johnny will always be remembered for bringing health care to the unempowered and to the marginalized, for being kind, for being generous, for being noble. He has touched us all, and his memory shall forever be etched in our minds and in our hearts. He called me his best friend in the Senate. I saw that in his book, as shown by Dr. John. However, I found out he also called Miriam and Pia his best friends. Manong Johnny, you will truly be missed for the jokes, for the inspiration, for the guidance, for your encouragement. Till we meet again. Thank you.
The Honorable Senator Pia S. Cayetano will now deliver her eulogy.
My story starts in 2004 when I began my term as senator. I sat in front, as I still do now, between the majority floor leader and the Senate President pro temp. The Senate President pro temp then was the Honorable Senator Juan Flavier. But our family friendship goes back to when Dad and Senator Flavier, Tito Johnny to me, became colleagues in the Senate. In fact, they both served in the Ramos administration. Senator Flavier was Secretary of Health, while my dad was the Chief Presidential Legal Counsel. Back then, I was a private citizen, a young lawyer, who already idolized this amazingly charismatic health secretary, who was taking on health campaigns that little did I know would be my very campaigns as well. In my blog, which I wrote when he retired from the Senate, I said, "My seatmate is never absent nor late. He is always the first one there. When I arrive, he always greets me with a warm smile, and in return, I give him a kiss on the cheek. Then I sit down and he says, 'How are you, young lady?'" And so there I was, a new senator, in need of fatherly guidance and affection. I would pour out my daily woes. He patiently nodded and listened. I guess Senator Miriam, Senator Lauren, and I have the same experience in that sense. He was a father to me, but as a legislator, we complemented each other. We shared a common passion for healthcare. He was the teacher and I was the student. I had dreams and aspirations. He had wisdom and experience. I had a passion for healthcare. He had the medical degree and expertise. At the start of the 13th Congress, I asked him if he would continue to chair the Committee on Health. He said, "It's your turn. I will support you." With the former Secretary of Health at my side, I faced the challenges with a positive outlook. I sponsored my first bill on the expanded vaccination program. I discussed breastfeeding at length with him. We talked about lobby groups and how at times they managed to block or delay key legislations. On many occasions, I would turn to him in frustration. I told him it was difficult working with some NGOs and professional groups because they wanted me, expected me, to carry their cause without taking into consideration other views, which I could not do. His advice was simple. He said, "Hayaan mo silang kumisay." You had to know him to understand what he meant. He could say this because he had earned people's respect. He could say this because people knew he didn't mean it in an insulting way. It was just his way of putting his foot down with a bit of humor mixed in. In my blog, I wrote, "Sometimes being in the Senate was like being in school. We have a school bell that rings and tells us it's time to come in." Having been one of only 4 women senators in 2004, it was common for me to be the subject of my male colleagues' jokes and friendly ribbing. Senator Flavier was my defender. This man, small in stature, was my protector, just as he was the protector of millions of Filipinos. On the Senate floor, he tempered my dreams and aspirations with his wisdom and experience. I was impatient. He knew there was a time for everything. His patience paid off. 2 decades after his Yossi Kadiri campaign, after I sponsored and defended the tobacco graphic health warning bill in 3 Congresses throughout 2007 and 2014, with the help of our Senate President Frank Drilon, it became a law. The same can be said for the RH law. He was a strong advocate of family planning when he was President Ramos' Secretary of Health. After conducting my first hearing and a series of consultations on RH at the start of my term in the 13th Congress, I asked for his advice on how to proceed. I had my doubts if the timing was right because, aside from the resistance of some sectors, then President GMA was vocal about her opposition. His advice to me, watch and observe. See if it makes progress in the lower house. Take it from there. It was the advice I needed to hear at that time. 2 Congresses later, Its time had come. We had a new president who was pro-RH. Both houses of Congress had outspoken members ready to champion its cause. NGOs and advocates and the advent of social media allowed more discussion and a creative and better understanding of the issues. And although he was not in the Senate when two of these very hardly fought health bills, tobacco graphic health warning, RH, and if I can include also sin tax bill was passed, the expanded sin tax bill, because he was a member the first time we passed it, he provided the foundation and should forever be a part of legislative history of these laws. Sitting next to me, I knew what my seatmate was up to all the time. In between debates and administrative functions, he would be writing. Wondering what it was he was always writing, I asked. At times, he would be making changes in his long and never-ending biography, but other times he would be sending a personal handwritten response to all the letters he received. If he was not sitting next to me, he was up on the podium as presiding officer. And although it has been 7 years since he has been on the Senate floor, I can still see him sitting there. At the end of session, he would say with much enthusiasm, "Session will resume at such and such time at 3 p.m. sharp." That was Senator Flavier's ending for every session day that he presided. To the Filipino people, he was the charismatic doctor to the barrios, the energetic, fearless secretary and senator known for his "let's do it" attitude. But as I wrote in my blog, I knew a little bit more of this man. That which completed him was his family. His beloved grandchildren, who were but little kids then, may have surely outgrown Mr. Bean. But from his stories and the joy in his eyes, I know that truly this was his most cherished position. A mere member of his grandchildren's secret society, Mr. Bean's Watchers Club. Tita Susan, John D., Jonette, James, and Joy, thank you for sharing this great man with us. He will be missed but never forgotten.
The Honorable Senator Gregorio B. Honasan II will now deliver his eulogy.
Manang Susan, John and Pat, Pauline, Jose, Juanito and Marjorie, Marco, Juan, Jasmine, James and Celeste, Jesse, JJ, Roby and Joy, Cara and Pablo, Mr. President, officers of the Senate, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, at mga nagmamahal kay Manong Johnny. My first face-to-face encounter with Manong Johnny Flavier happened on a popular TV show before the 1995 senatorial elections, where we both ran. We were guests of then TV host and now Governor Vilma Santos Recto. It did not take long before the star for all seasons and I faded into the background, and together with a national audience, we were treated to the Juan Flavier Roadshow. Secretary Flavier had been in the Department of Health commercials promoting "Let's Do It" programs. Some believed that he would reach the limits of his competence as an advocate of grassroots public health in the legislature. Of course, they were all proven wrong, because the Senate simply became a bigger stage for Manong Johnny, where he almost effortlessly garnered bipartisan support for the laws he sponsored and co-authored. He believed that the Hippocratic Oath, together with our entire body of codes and laws, had to be honored in the poorest and most remote corners of the country. Every plenary discussion, committee hearing, caucus, and meeting I witnessed and attended with him in the 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th Congresses became for me an important lesson in public service, humility, and compassion, as well as lethal exposure to the viral Flavier humor. Members of the upper chamber were expected to reflect audibly and visibly the highest standards of statesmanship. But this was never a problem for Manong Johnny, whose heart was bigger than and inversely proportional to his pride and his size. He endeared himself to his peers and subordinates. This diminutive giant of a barrio doctor turned weapon of mass communications and Senator of the Republic. Soon I decided that if and when I grew up to approximate what he had become in the hearts and minds of the Filipino people we both served, I wanted to be like Senator Juan Flavier. Manong Johnny, Apo, Godspeed. You can now rest peacefully in God's bosom. Your legacy, your continuing work and co-workers, your family, children and grandchildren, and those who come after you is secure. You found joy in life and gave so much joy to others. We miss you, but I am sure not as much as you are missed by Manang Susan and the kids. We love you, but I'm sure not as much as you love God, your country, and your family.
The Honorable Senator Ramon Magsaysay Jr. has sent his eulogy, a copy of which will be given to the family of the late Senator Juan M. Flavier. The Secretary of the Senate will now read the Senate resolution.
Resolution expressing the profound sympathy and sincere condolence of the Senate on the death of the Honorable Juan M. Flavier, former Senator of the 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th Congress, 1995 to 2007. Whereas the Honorable Juan M. Flavier, former Senator of the Republic, 1995 to 2007, and former Secretary of Health, 1992 to 1995, passed away on October 30, 2014 at the age of 79. Whereas born in Tondo to parents of humble origins and raised in a mining town in the Mountain Province, he earned his way through school as a shoeshine boy, newspaper boy, waiter, and tutor until he earned a college degree in medicine in 1960 from the University of the Philippines and a master's degree in public health from Johns Hopkins University in 1969. Whereas dedicated to uplift the plight of the poor, the young Dr. Flavier opted to serve as a doctor to the barrios, bringing health care and healing to the common tao in the rural communities of Nueva Ecija and Cavite, his success and popularity of which earned for him the presidency of the Philippine Rural Reconstruction Movement in 1967 and the presidency of the International Institute of Rural Reconstruction from 1978 to 1992. Whereas tapped by then-President Fidel Ramos to be Secretary of Health in 1992, Dr. Flavier formally launched the Doctors to the Barrios program that challenged graduates of medicine to work in isolated communities throughout Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Whereas with his vast experience in public health administration, effective leadership and communication, and his unique brand of public health service, he brought to the Department of Health a new vigor, a new vision under the banner, "Let's do it," that inspired the department to launch successful national health projects, easily remembered by the use of slogans such as Oplan Alis Disease, Patak Pinoy, Ligtas Tigdas 23 in 93, Kontra Cholera, Iwas Tamis, Iwas Diabetes, and Sangkap Pinoy, and Kung Sila'y Mahal Nyo, Magplano. Whereas Dr. Flavier received numerous awards such as 10 Outstanding Young Men, 1967. 10 Outstanding Physicians in the Community Service, 1992. Gold Medal for World Tobacco or Health Award, 1994. Dangal ng Bayan Award, 1994. International Humanitarian Award, 1994. International Peace Award, 1997. And the Golden Heart Presidential Award, 1998. Whereas a reluctant candidate, he nevertheless placed fifth in the 1995 senatorial elections because the people acknowledged and appreciated his outstanding work as a cabinet member, and placed second when he was re-elected in 2001 for his excellent performance as a senator during his first term. Whereas as a senator of the 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th Congress, the hard-working Senator Flavier registered a perfect attendance during the sessions and authored or co-authored landmark laws which promoted public health care and disease prevention and improved the quality of life of the people, some of which were the Traditional and Alternative Healthcare Act of 1995, Plant Variety Protection Act, Indigenous Peoples' Rights Act, Poverty Alleviation Act, Barangay Microbusiness Enterprise Act, Philippine Nursing Act, and the Tobacco Regulation Act. Whereas during his term, he chaired various key Senate committees such as the Committees on Health and Demography, Education, Arts and Culture, and Cultural Communities, continuously championing and supporting the health agenda of the Senate through reforms in healthcare delivery, healthcare regulation, and healthcare financing. Whereas Senator Flavier was elected Senate President pro tempore in August 2002 in the 12th Congress and elected again to the same prestigious post in the Senate on July 26, 2004, at the start of the 13th Congress, making him the longest-serving Senate President pro tempore since the 8th Congress. Whereas bidding goodbye to this August chamber during the synod adjournment of the 13th Congress on June 7, 2004, Senator Flavier, ever humble, uttered these simple but eloquent words, quote, "As I go, I will leave part of myself in each one of you, and as you stay, I will bring with me part of you wherever I go," close quote. Whereas the death of the illustrious doctor and senator is a great loss not only to his bereaved family, but also to the millions of Filipinos whom he loved and served so well. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate to express, as it hereby expresses, its profound sympathy and sincere condolence on the death of the Honorable Juan M. Flavier, former Senator of the 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th Congress, 1995 to 2007. Resolved further that a copy of this resolution be furnished to the bereaved family of the former senator.
The Senate President and the acting leader will now present the resolution to the family of the late Senator Juan M. Flavier. The Honorable Senate President Franklin M. Drilon will now deliver his eulogy.
Today, we are gathered in this august chamber, bound by immense grief at the passing of a highly respected, deeply loved, and widely remembered public servant, Senator Juan Martin Flavier. With profound sense of loss and sadness, I extend my deepest sympathies to Susan, John D., James, Janet, and Joy. Although he was the first one to make a joke of his height, Johnny was a giant of a man. His monumental achievements made him stand out from the rest. But what made him more extraordinary was his strong compassion for those who have less in life, his sense of duty and commitment to make a difference. Throughout his journey from being a barrio doctor to being a Secretary of Health to being a senator, he consistently championed the poor and the sick. As Health Secretary, he introduced novel approaches to health care, such as the Oplan Alis disease, Sangkap Pinoy, among others, which were successful and widely praised by the World Health Organization and health practitioners. His Doctor to the Barrios program inspired young doctors to leave their comfort zones and the prospect of lucrative practice in the city to administer to the poor, the sick, and the ailing in the rural areas. In the Senate, he authored landmark legislation such as the Traditional Medicine Law, the Poverty Alleviation Law, the Indigenous Peoples' Rights Act, among others. I nominated and worked with him as a Senate President pro tempore. He tirelessly pushed for reforms in healthcare delivery, regulation, and financing. He will always be remembered for passionately and courageously advocating for the reproductive health law, despite strong opposition from different sectors. That law was finally passed 2 years ago, and we dedicate it to his memory. The passage of the reproductive health law is a fitting tribute to him. Johnny was a well-loved colleague who peppered every committee hearing with his stunning humor and sharp analysis of issues. His diligence, humility, character, integrity, and rock-solid determination to pursue his advocacies held all the members of this august chamber in awe. Johnny left an indelible mark in the lives of people he crossed paths with. He was a gem of a friend, a man I highly respected and deeply admired. I remember during the 1995 campaign, as so clearly described by Serge, Johnny had a miniature Flavier TV shirt, which he would throw to the crowd at the end of his speech. You remember that, Serge? He had a little T-shirt. His self-effacing humor made everyone afraid to speak after he had spoken. Malas ka lang sa kampanya pag ikaw ang susunod magsalita kay Johnny Flavier. Dahil po hindi na makikinig sa iyong tao, yung iba umaalis na. Johnny's innate charm and wit never failed to conquer every stage he stepped on. He captured the hearts of millions of people who heard him dish out his signature anecdotes. He was the quintessential communicator who had a knack for delivering serious messages in a lighter but certainly more effective way. How can we forget his UC Kadiri campaign? It was the public support and consciousness that this slogan generated which enabled us to pass the Sin Tax Law on cigarettes and the Graphic Health Warning Act on cigarette packs. Sadly, during the 1995 campaign, he was singled out by anti-reproductive health advocates who cast aspirations on him. However, his detractors underestimated Juan Flavier. That small guy had nerves of steel and iron will. He was unfazed by all the mudslinging and went on to place 5th among the 12 winning candidates. 6 years later, he ran again for re-election, placing 2nd. His amazing achievements in the polls underscored the people's overwhelming trust and confidence in his capability and moral authority. I have collected fond memories of Johnny, having worked with him for more than a decade. I will never forget that he always made himself available every time I went to his office, which was across mine, to make small talk and share my thoughts after a full and grueling day. My wife Mila and I always had a great time with him and Susan. He never failed to make my day with his funny one or two liners. Johnny did not only inspire people to give their best in public service, he also brought so much joy and laughter to those around him. Known for his quick wit and ready repartee, he spared no one from his brand of humor. I can only imagine the chuckles he drew from people every time he referred to me as Milas Letson. And today, I have the permission of Susan to tell you a little episode in my life. When I was Senate President, somebody gifted me with 2 barong materials. I liked it so much, so I gave Johnny the other barong as a formal barong. That is the barong which Johnny is now wearing in that picture. It is indeed a memory that I will always treasure. The members of this august chamber and I are privileged to have known him and have laughed, walked, and worked with him. His memory will live forever in the hearts of countless people whose lives he deeply touched. His life and work will continue to inspire men and women to leave their comfort zone and make a difference in the life of those who have less. His legacy is cradled at the bosom of a grateful nation. Today, we honor Juan Martin Flavier, an extraordinary man who in his lifetime had always pursued the road less traveled. We celebrate his life even as we feel a collective sense of loss at his demise. It is not easy to bid him farewell, but we find comfort in the thought that perhaps at this moment he dazzles the angels and the saints in heaven with his brand of wit and humor. I can almost hear him telling the angels and the saints, "Let's do it." To Susan, Jundi, James, Janet, and Joy, you have lost a great husband and an amazing father. I lost a friend and a dear colleague, and the Filipino nation lost one of its illustrious sons. Goodbye, Johnny. Rest in eternal peace.
On behalf of the family of the late Senator Juan M. Flavier, Dr. Jonathan David A. Flavier will deliver the response.
Maraming salamat po sa inyong pagtanggap sa aming ama. Pero aangal sana ako kasi kailangan ko rin ho ng stand dito para makita Si Dad, naalala ko yung kwento niya na pag sinasabihan daw siya ng lola kikay namin pagka nahihirapan siya sa klase, anak, basta pumasok ka lang araw-araw, papasa ka. Siguro naman ho kay lola kikay at kay Dad, dahil present ho kayo lahat, pasado na ho kayo sa kanya. Kaya lang medyo kinakabahan din ho ako ng konti kasi baka kung umangal si Dad, masasabihan ho din kami kasi throughout his life, hindi naman ho nagbabodyguard yan At saka wala siyang, anong tawag doon, yung mga hagad at saka escort. Ngayon lang, merong hagad at escort. Kaya baka yung Senate protocol mapapagalitan mamaya. Pati din yung choir baka mapagalitan kasi sa lahat ng pwede kantahin, little candle pang pinili nyo. Sana big candle o big man lang. Often as children, family, and friends, we want to hold on to Dad. We want him to stay on and still be present. With grace, we express our gratitude to you, Dad, Senate, children, family, and friends, for helping us celebrate the life of Senator Johnny Flavier. With so many people here who worked with him and who did wonderful things with him, now continuing to work in our Senate, we would like to think that his memory lives on and his spirit is still present with us this morning. We are inspired by the recognition of his good deeds and the character of my father. But allow me to share two quirks that he has that are not too well known among most people. First off, my dad is essentially deaf on the right ear, on the right side. And number two, his photographic memory is sometimes a curse. For people like you and those who are close to him in the Senate, when people come near, we have to cue Dad that there's someone on his right side talking to him. Otherwise, he would not hear you. So, in a sense, the people who wanted to talk to him who stayed on the right side. That's the wrong place to be. So, if you want to talk to him later, please make sure you're on the left side. Sometimes Dad associates certain people with blunders or bad behavior, and he never forgets. We think that is part of his honesty that is expressed when he sincerely reaches out to people that are essentially good, and how he is turned off and often blunt with people he does not like. The people who care for him in the Senate, like you, have given him the chance to work with those he remembers for their blunders by showing the better facets of these people. You allowed him to listen to people and concerns he could not hear. Senator Flavier was more intelligent and honorable because his fellow senators and his Senate staff complemented his omissions or filled up his flaws. You completed him in times of his weakness, and for these we are very thankful. Allow us to specifically express our gratitude to Senator Serge Osmena, Senator Frank and Mrs. Mila Drilon, Senator June Magsaysay, represented by Paco, who I think is here, and the special individuals in Dad's former Senate office, I think they're at the back right now, for the gifts of their talents, time, and their treasures. We are sincerely grateful to all of you who are here today. With your precious personal presence and kind words, my mom, brothers and sisters, and Dad's grandchildren find comfort as the author of life brings him home. As God brings Dad home, we find solace and hope in our country because of people like you. People like him will make the Philippines a healthier and happier place. Sa pagpasok at paglabas ng aming ama dito sa inyong marangal na magkakasama, maraming salamat po sa pagpatuloy ng kanyang hamon. Let's do it sa Senado.
This necrological service is hereby declared closed.
hatred. Let me so love.
Dove è ferita, perdono. Dove è dubbio, fede. Dove c'è ispirazione, sperare. Vostra pace.
Lord, make me an instrument. lae.